That is very fierce, very strong from Donald Trump. We know this is the third time that Hamas has received this type of warning from Donald Trump, and it has worked in the past. What do you make of it?
I feel like there's so many fronts to break down, so I'll address them one by one. The first thing is that obviously we know he brought hostages to the State of the Union, and today they were in the Oval Office, probably sharing their testimonies of the suffering, which you don't really have to hear from them. You could literally look at how famished they look and unhealthy and traumatized they are to see what they've went through. But, between watching the 47 minutes and hearing what they endured in this hellhole that Gaza became, Trump seems now motivated more than ever to get all the hostages home, not to mention there are Americans that were not only killed, but are still being held hostage. Now, the second aspect to this is that Stephen Witkoff, the special envoy to the Middle East, is in the position to try to broker what was supposed to be the extension of the ceasefire, which Hamas didn't want to come to the table and find a solution for this, which would have led to the release of more hostages. So if Trump is approaching this in a diplomatic way, which you can't with animal terrorists, then they have the audacity to reject the diplomatic way, which they didn't even deserve to begin with. You have to meet them where they're at. So there's a time and a place to act accordingly. And Trump sees that you can't negotiate with terrorists, which is Israel's punchline. And now he's going to act accordingly. You treat a terrorist the way they have to be treated, which is with force and demands.
Absolutely. Look, I suspect that Hamas will follow Trump's orders here because this is the third time that he's warned they will be held to pay, and we don't exactly know what that looks like. But I also want to get your thoughts on the latest developments of what's happening in the Middle East. We know that Arab countries have now countered Trump's proposal to move Palestinians from Gaza. They've endorsed Egypt's $53 billion plan, which wants to keep Palestinian people there while Gaza is being rebuilt and turn it into a Palestinian state, but without Hamas in government. I want to get your thoughts on that proposal, but also it's interesting, isn't it, that this proposal comes just shortly after Donald Trump made his bold plan to rebuild Gaza. Looking at how this is playing out, it's kind of like seeing what happens under Donald Trump's leadership, under his way of negotiating. He makes a bold plan and it forces others to come up with a different solution.
Right. Here's the thing. Everyone's playing checkers and Donald Trump is always playing chess. He sees the future. He's always one step ahead of the game. And just when you think he's lost his mind, he comes with a reasonable explanation as to why he did exactly what he did. Now, when it comes to Gaza specifically, the Arab countries very conveniently took a back seat, and you almost can't blame them, except for the fact that they will constantly condemn Israel but never provide any solution towards what to do with Hamas or a Palestinian state. And everyone's very quick to jump on helping Palestine, except for the fact that they can't recognize that Hamas is still presently a threat. So I'm glad Egypt is pretending they want to invest $53 billion after Hamas is gone. But we need to get to the point that it's able to become rebuilt. We need to get to the point that Hamas is not in power and that they're no longer a threat, but nobody actually wants to intervene in helping Donald Trump get rid of them. So you're still left with the same problem, but everyone's very brave to want to address it once it's already taken care of. And I find that very hypocritical.
Yeah. Look, what else is happening in the United States? We know that Donald Trump is showing really strong leadership when it comes to cracking down on anti-Semitism. Trump warned that all federal funding will stop at universities that allows illegal protests. Now, this is, of course, after the wave of anti-Israel, pro-Palestine protests that have been taking place at college campuses. And just a reminder of how horrific these scenes became. This was Columbia University last year, protesters wearing masks turning violent. Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, all federal funding will stop for any college, school or university that allows illegal protests. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came from. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on the crime, arrested. And he also included in there no masks, because when you look at that vision, you just see all these protesters who, are pretending that they're so brave and they're covering their faces with masks while they're carrying out acts of violence. But seeing Donald Trump make this strong decision, being so firm about it, it really makes you wonder why this action wasn't taken under the previous administration. But Emily, what difference is this going to make?
I hope that it makes a difference where universities could become a place of learning again, because it seems to have been hijacked by these professional agitators who, seeing that in the past it's worked to get away with these college campus, I wouldn't call it a protest, but a riot. Why not replicate this over and over again? I want to go off on a tangent for a minute, because as I was watching the videos you just played, my mind went elsewhere. I can't help but to think, if I'm a parent and I'm paying for my child to go to what's supposed to be a great school for them to come out, hopefully in a, great career one day.
Yeah.
And then you find out that they've been indoctrinated to support a terrorist group, so much so that they're hijacking buildings. How badly have you failed as a parent, or how badly has the school brainwashed your kids? That's what comes to my mind. Now, regarding Trump wanting to remove the federal funding, what frustrates me even more than these agitators on campuses is the lack of consequence that we see from our politicians that are so weak and so cowardly. Last year in Colombia, all I had to think was, why is Mayor Adams not sending the police? Why is Governor Hochul not intervening? Why are they letting us down? Why are they endangering students on campus? They would rather succumb to the pro-terrorist mob than actually enforce the law. And I cannot think of one good reason that there is to let these pro-Hamas agitators hijack a campus like Columbia or Barnard.
Mm-hmm. It's been so sick to watch some of the scenes that have been coming out of places like Columbia University. We've had some pretty awful demonstrations here in Australia as well. But Emily, I want to get your thoughts on Donald Trump's speech to Congress yesterday. So many moments. I think one of the most powerful was when he honoured Laken Riley, who was, of course, a 22-year-old nursing student who was tragically murdered by an illegal immigrant. This is what Donald Trump had to say.
Last year, I told Laken's grieving parents that we would ensure their daughter would not have died in vain. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act. It's called the Laken-Riley Act. So Allison and Lauren, America will never, ever forget our beautiful Laken Hope Riley.
So emotional hearing that, isn't it? Especially speaking to members of Laken Riley's family who were there. And it's wild to see that some of the Democrats weren't applauding this moment. What are your thoughts?
I mean, firstly, as a woman, it's so touching to hear him say our Laken Riley. It shows that she was just one of us. She was a girl who went on a jog and was murdered by an illegal immigrant. And it shows you the contrast between the previous administration into the Trump administration, where the previous one shed more tears over the deportation of illegal immigrants and neglected the current American citizens who have many, many needs and desires, and we're facing so much danger and crime spikes from illegal immigrants. But they would rather focus on, well, they're a human too, than prioritize someone like Laken Riley, who was murdered while exercising on her college campus. And it just shows you that Trump is the people's president. Biden was the party's president, and the Democratic Party has gone so off the rails that I don't know if it's possible to come back to a point of return.
I don't know if it is I agree with you, Emily. I don't know if it's possible for them to return. They just have no attack lines, and what they are attacking, it just isn't going down well with anyone. Emily, you recently had a meeting with Vice President JD Vance, but it was crashed by someone, and that someone was Donald Trump. I know he loves to surprise people. Can you tell us a bit about what happened?
I would love to tell you guys what happened. I don't know why nobody was talking about this. We were in a meeting with JD and a few other cabinet members, and Trump walks in with a NFL player from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's giving him a tour. And then he just went off on a tangent about how great the Chiefs were and why they never came to the White House and how he wants to do another team visit. And then he's like, JD, bring them to my office. I want to thank these Patriots for helping us win the election. And then he went into a very nice speech about how grateful he was to us for using our voices and our platform. And he gave us a challenge coin, and he gave us a pen, and he gave me a MAGA black dark Elon hat.
Amazing.
And it was almost like a kid in a candy shop, you know? It was great. And he's just so unapologetically him. He's so authentic. He makes everyone laugh. He doesn't even try. He's just he's the man of the people. I keep saying that over and over again.
That's what I loved about part of his speech yesterday. Just so entertaining. He's making everyone laugh, even when he's going through all the things that Doge is finding. You know, it's hard not to laugh when you listen to him. He's brilliant at what he can do, and certainly being an entertainer and keeping everyone listening. But as we spoke about, the Democrats just don't really have any real attack on Donald Trump or the Republican Party at the moment. They are all over the place. And that includes, of course, some of the left-wing media outlets like the hosts from The View. They got a reality check this week because they're just trying to cling on to whatever they can to convince themselves that Kamala Harris's election loss, wasn't that bad. But as Stephen Smith had to deliver some hard truths for them. Take a look at this.
But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won the popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state, and on top of it all, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
Well, it's a different definition of a mandate, I guess.
It's like these hosts are hearing those facts for the very first time. 4 months after the election, the red wave absolutely hit, and they still can't cope with it.
Well, the thing is, especially with the View hosts, is no matter what the facts are, they will never abide by them so long as it supports Trump's agenda. Now, what I respect about Stephen A. Smith, which I like him as a sports broadcaster, is that he can remove his biasness from the truth, which is something that we all need to work on ourselves to do. So he said he doesn't like Trump, but the facts are that the majority of the country did, in fact, like Trump. Now, you don't have to support that idea or endorse that idea, but you need to acknowledge that that is the reality. And the View hosts are so out of touch with reality. I don't even know how they have enough views to sustain their show because everyone literally hates them, but there they are. And at least you can say that Stephen A. Smith is just, as a Democrat, showing them that we're the problem. You can't be this out of touch with reality. That's how you keep losing elections.
And look, despite the strong approval ratings for Donald Trump, there are still plenty of lefties who can't handle it and are still suffering from severe TDS. Here's this TikToker calling for Donald Trump to be shot.
I don't know if this is going to get me banned or not, but Donald Trump needs to be shot, guys. Someone needs to shoot him.
It's so sick. Emily, we're still hearing this despite the assassination attempts on Trump. I don't understand how people think they can get away with this.
As not funny as that is, it's pretty funny that he begun that video saying, I don't know if this will get me banned. Sweetheart, you're going to jail. All right? You hope you got banned from that video.
Yeah.
What I can't understand is the fact that that thought came through your mind, which is already sickening enough. But what possessed you to think it was a good idea to take out your cell phone and actually put out there a call to action of violence against the sitting president of the United States, let alone any person ever, and think that that was a good idea? Just so you know, what I found out researching that video is I think he's actually being taken into custody for a violent threat against the sitting president.
As he should, absolutely. Yeah, not really a smart cookie, is he, with those threats? Emily Austin, commentator and TV. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to speak with you.
Thank you.